Support for today's Tifo Football video is brought to you by Manscaped, the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Visit manscaped.com/Tifo for 20% off and free shipping. In September 2019, David de Gea finally signed a new contract with Manchester United. The deal was enormous. 4 years at £350,000 per week with an option for a further 12 months. And fair enough, de Gea was 28 years old, among the very best goalkeepers in the world, and had been United's best performer over the last 5 years. 18 months on though, de Gea's stock has fallen. And with Dean Henderson emerging as a credible rival at Old Trafford, that huge contract suddenly seems burdensome. But what's actually happened to David de Gea? Goalkeepers' reputations are always damaged by mistakes, and in that regard, de Gea has suffered more than most. He has made a lot of errors, and often in big games. In fact, the tone of the coverage around him began to change at the beginning of the 2018 World Cup, when he allowed a Cristiano Ronaldo shot to pass through him during Spain's 3-3 draw with Portugal. Since then, the ugly moments have become more regular and, over time, framed him in a completely different way. And while these mistakes may span different seasons, they've all been part of the same run of bad form. Most recently, de Gea's 2019-20 season was coloured not only by a disastrous FA Cup semi-final against Chelsea, during which he allowed Olivier Giroud and Mason Mount to score from shots which should have been saved, he was also beaten cheaply at his near post by Bournemouth's Junior Stanislas at Old Trafford, and by a powerful strike by Tottenham's Steven Bergwijn, which, as part of an emerging theme, seemed to pass through him on the way in. Of course, it doesn't help that de Gea plays for Manchester United. The social media criticism has been unrelenting, and the attacks from the media have been vicious. But de Gea is a goalkeeper currently in decline, and while not a measure of goalkeeping performance as a whole, data analysis confirms that his shot stopping, long considered his outstanding ability, has actually been deteriorating for some time. Post-shot expected goals minus goals allowed per 90 subtracts the number of goals a goalkeeper has actually conceded from a calculated average of the number he could be expected to concede from the quality of on-target shots that he has faced. Positive numbers are good, and negative numbers are bad. And between 2017 and 2021, de Gea's trajectory has been alarming. His performance is more worrying when compared with the average PSXG-GA per 90 among Premier League goalkeepers in those seasons. In 2017-18, that average was 0.01, which de Gea outperformed considerably with his plus 0.21. In 2021, that league average is now plus 0.07, which with minus 0.01 per 90, de Gea is now well below, making him by definition a lower than average shot stopper. His performance in that category is also well below what were once his peers in Europe. Jan Oblak, Marc-André ter Stegen, Alisson, Ederson and Thibaut Courtois are all enjoying far better seasons. So what's actually behind this? Well, really there's no silver bullet explanation. The on-pitch evidence is the result of many different factors. Diminishing confidence, media scrutiny, and the growing reputation of Dean Henderson are all part of this vicious cycle of poor goalkeeping form. The Athletic's Carl Anker, who has covered Manchester United's games throughout the lockdown, has also noticed the audible signs of de Gea's malaise and has repeatedly heard him chastise himself in his native Spanish. He also reports that de Gea is less vocal in communication with his defenders than he once was, certainly in comparison to his understudy, Dean Henderson. Now, in both cases, that would seem to describe a distracted and frustrated goalkeeper who is battling more than just a single issue. As would the fact that over the past 3 years, de Gea has made errors resulting in goals from every conceivable situation. From corners and crosses, as with the miscalculation against Everton in February 2020, which resulted in a Victor Lindelof own goal. From having the ball at his feet, as with an incident at Goodison Park when Dominic Calvert-Lewin charged down a clearance into the net. And for a whole host of other goals which, while not calamities, either didn't look quite right or didn't match the expectation for what a goalkeeper of de Gea's ability should concede. Neymar's Champions League goal at Old Trafford, for instance, when he failed to close off the available cross shot. Or Justin Kluivert's goal in Leipzig in that group's decisive game, when he hesitated, failed to set himself properly, and then appeared to turn his head away from the ball. Now, these are by no means terrible mistakes, but they do look odd, and perhaps suggests former professional goalkeeper and now coach David De Gea's stance is complicit in them. He favours a starting position which is very popular among top goalkeepers. He has his hands low, extended below his waist and inside the width of his shoulders. He also sets up with his legs wide apart and his knees slightly bent. Now, the benefits of this are obvious. It puts his hands in position to cover his corners and his feet ready to make those instinctive low saves close to his body. But, Priest says, the stance can also make him vulnerable. While the position of his hands allows him to cover wider areas, it also creates an awkwardness in reacting to shots close to and around his body. And while having his legs wide does put his feet in positions to make saves, that also comes at a cost. It changes the distribution of his weight, which can lead to him falling backwards, and also prevents him from whipping his feet out from under him in the way necessary to make low saves with his hands. It's a technique which has served him extremely well in the past, but it is high risk. It depends on lightning quick reaction speed and demands perfect, instant decisions about which part of the body to use when making a save. And when a goalkeeper isn't able to do that, when those calculations are wrong, or when there are imperfections in the technique itself, that's when the flaws reveal themselves, manifesting in the not quite right aesthetic of many of the goals De Gea continues to concede. And it's very difficult to cure. Goalkeeping form depends on the relationship between state of mind and mechanics. And as a result, fearful, unhappy, or hesitant goalkeepers are often guilty of making little decisions which result in big mistakes. It might be to stay too close to his line when a cross enters his 6-yard box, it could be a reluctance to take an extra step when closing down on one-on-one, or it could be to take a few extra seconds to play a pass. Tellingly, David De Gea is guilty of all of these little behaviours, and he remains mired in a long-term goalkeeping slump. Today's video was sponsored by Manscaped, and I'm here to tell you to use the right tools for a very important job. Now, we all know about the classic lawnmower 3.0 for trimming below the belt, but Manscaped haven't stopped there. What about the Weed Whacker? This nose and ear hair trimmer provides proprietary skin-safe technology, which helps prevent those nicks, snags and tugs so you can look forward to whacking those weeds. And what about the Crop Preserver? It's an anti-chafing deodorant and moisturizer. Now that it's starting to heat up outside, you can make sure that you're gliding around smoothly. There's also the Crop Reviver, a spray-on toner with a super fresh smell, and even a new refined cologne signature scent, so that you can smell good and feel good this spring. So, please visit manscaped.com and use the offer code TIFO to get 20% off and free shipping. Because it's spring cleaning time, and your balls will thank you.